But I mean, well, also Taylor Swift because she doesn't know it yet, but she's queer. And she's also queer.
You are gay.
Parties are more affectionate, let's call it that.
The good use of good alternative word for.
Doesn't that make you gay?
Well,
All right.
too bad.
Okay. Thanks, guys. And I think we're ready to start. This is a new format for us. So welcome to the Fresh Meat Podcast, a live version, along with the Out4Biz Club. It's a new format for us because we obviously do it behind closed doors, and we're just like three people, where we don't have an audience sitting in front of us. But because this is a topic which we really care about, and we wanted like more people to be a part of it. We wanted more people from your side to be a part of it. We thought it's better we do it in a classroom. And to start the proceedings, I think it'd be great if we could introduce ourselves. And Gabi, you want to start off?
Yes, I can start. I'm Gabi Galera. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a bisexual and I'm from Barcelona section.
Hi, I'm Dani. My pronouns are also she, her, and I'm a lesbian, also from Barcelona section.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin. Pronouns he, him. I'm gay. I'm not in first year. I'm a second year, current Out4Biz president, but I was in the New York section.
My name is Ari. I'm from Barcelona section, first year. Some of you guys may know me. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm straight, and I'm excited to be here.
I'm Pavel. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm from New York section, first year, and I'm straight, but we're both allies, and that's why we want to do this, and thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
So I think the way we do this, like the format of thousands of fans who have watched our show in the past, as you guys are very familiar with our format, we start off with a very casual icebreaker question. And so the question for you guys would be, if you had, so this is the Pride Week. We're celebrating the community and whatever, on all the rights you guys stand for. If you guys had to host your ultimate Pride event with the music and the theme and food and everything, what would it be?
I can start. Mine would be a whole Broadway show with like tons of like different kinds of musicals, stage and music, and probably some food that resembles that musical. So Waitress, you have a lot of candies. Hamilton, you have something like more like war, I don't know what be, something very American. And everyone singing together. This would be my ultimate, very nice party.
Mine is very different. I have a playlist that it's very, very lesbian playlist. So for sure, this would be my the music that was supposed to play there. But for sure, we could include also Lady Gaga to be more inclusive with the rest of the queer community and also the straight community. For sure, Dua Lipa songs, not because of anything, just because I love her and I'm a very big fan of her.
I love this part.
Yeah, and but yeah, lots of colors, gathering my friends, and yeah, I think that would be mine.
I think I would probably tag on to Gabi's idea, but then I would, just be responsible for the after party. I think that's, important to have a good, fun, queer after party with like ideally multiple rooms, because I know, we have a lot of different tastes in music. I'm more of a techno person. I know there are some people who prefer the pop or reggaeton, so I think, also like the celebrating also the diversity in music so that everyone, can find what they personally prefer.
Yeah, what do you have a preference?
No, I like both of these ideas, but I have a follow-up question for Dani. What would be like a classic lesbian anthem? Because I think people talk more about sort of gay anthems, but you said you have a very lesbian playlist, so I'm kind of curious what that is.
Yeah, so I'm currently right now on my Fletcher era. So she's a massive lesbian, lots of lesbian drama involved, and etc. But I mean, there's a whole list of lesbian or sapphic artists that are. It goes from Fletcher, Boy Genius, King Princess. I don't remember now, but I mean, well, also Taylor Swift because she doesn't know it yet, but she's queer. And she's also queer.
You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you spoke about queer parties, lesbian parties, gay parties. So when I think of a queer party and I see posters, and it looks very sexual. There's like, it just seems very sexual. But like, and I had a conversation with Dani, she said, no, that's not what a lesbian party is like. So what is the difference? Like, what is the difference between, let's say, a pride party is hosted just by gays and a pride party which is hosted by, let's say, lesbian? Is there a difference?
Probably there is. I think it's true. I mean, you know, like I think LGBT, you know, when we think of it, it's we put it all in one, you know, but it actually comprises a lot of very different groups, right? So we were talking about before, so there's I don't know if you guys have seen Modern Family, but there's kind of the Venn diagram of like, you know, identity and preferences. So there's, what was it? It was gay men and straight men, both men. Then you have gay men and straight women, both attracted to men. But then you have gays and lesbians, not so much overlap. And unfortunately, this also kind of goes for parties, I would say, you know? So when you think about like queer parties, it actually tends to be mostly gay men. So, you know, like I've been to some parties here in Barcelona that have been truly queer, which was super fun, you know, because it's a lot more, I don't know, there's a lot more different, you know, shapes and sizes, you know, you have just, and those parties I would also say tend to be maybe a little bit less sexual. I think when you have like a lot of gay men in one place, things can get more heated. I also had the pleasure to go with Dani to a lesbian party. That was a totally different experience.
Yeah, how did that go for you?
Well, I ended up making out with a gay guy, so I was, you know, that was the, you know, so I think we proved kind of the point in that one. So yeah, so there, I mean, there are differences, but for me, it's actually most fun when kind of you have a truly queer crowd, you know, so like everyone's there and you don't just have one group that is dominating. But unfortunately, I don't know, for whatever reason, it seems like gay guys just like to go out more. So, you know, most of these queer parties end up being mostly a gay crowd. And yes, there are, in general, those parties are more affectionate. Let's call it that.
The good use of, good alternative word for. And like, so these parties, at least historically, like I was reading, they would represent, you know, they were underground in the sense that, you know, the community couldn't go out and be part of the regular parties, which is why you would go to this party and just unleash and be yourself. Is that still the case over the years? I mean, do the parties still have that same sentiment? Because now, at least in cities like Barcelona and a few other cities, like you see the communities even hanging out in places where you have, you know, I mean, everyone's a part of it. Mm-hmm. But do you think that sentiment is still part of the parties that are hosted? So let's say we have Bao today. So will we see that sentiment?
I wouldn't say here in Barcelona, but I feel like we're still not accepted in lots of countries in the world. So, for example, in I think 64 countries, it's still criminalized to be part of the LGBTQ community. So on those countries, for sure, I would imagine there are no parties at all, or the parties that exist are very under the radar and very much hidden. But here in Barcelona, I would say it's a very open city.
But so I still think it makes, you know, it's not all kind of clubs, you know, even though you might have like people like LGBT people going to these clubs, not all clubs, I would say, are truly like safe spaces. So for me, for example, my safest space is in Berlin, because there are like some clubs, you know, that are truly like catering to this, and they're also, you know, trying to establish this safe space, you know, where you can be, for example, as a woman, you know, you can be topless in a club without having like a line of men, you know, just trying to hit on you, and which I think, you know, is like a privilege that, for example, we don't have here in Barcelona. So I would say, you know, there are definitely differences, but of course, we are privileged here, you know, to be in a country, in a in a region where, you know, it is okay, you know, to have these parties, to, you know, openly display your gender, your identity, your sexual preferences. And I think that's definitely something that helps. But still, you know, even in these countries, you know, we see more kind of also right-wing parties like gaining more ground. You see, you know, more kind of legislature also passed anti-LGBT. So it's something that we still have to fight for, right? So I think these safe spaces are not a given, but, you know, have to be constantly kind of fought for. And that is like something that, you know, us as an LGBT community, we cannot do ourselves, right? So this is also why, you know, we depend also on the allies to, you know, support us kind of in the quest to ensure that, you know, these safe spaces exist, also when, also in countries where it is legal to be LGBT.
No, I was just going to add that even sometimes in our safe space, like more queer parties, depending on the audience or who is there, like sometimes I feel I need to be like a little bit more careful, because what happens is that like I'm with my girlfriend, like we might be kissing, and usually like there is sometimes a weird guy staring, like, oh my
Sorry about
god.
that.
And like, what? Like, why that happened? So even in parties where like you feel that the audience is very open, sometimes there is always these random moment and awkward moment that we are kind of used to, but it kind of kills a bit the vibe.
Yeah, I had a question. So, like, I think Barcelona and Berlin, most people wouldn't be surprised to hear that those two cities have good queer scenes. Have you been to a party somewhere where you wouldn't expect to find a good queer scene? Like, what's a sort of offbeat story that you have of going to such an event?
I think.
If it would be a person, I would say you can.
That's I really.
Actually, I do.
Oh, great.
I was in Maceió. My girlfriend's family is from a city in the northeast of Brazil. And I think it was one of the first times I was there, maybe like with her parents. And they were like, oh, let's go to a samba, like there is like some rounds of samba, and they saw it like in the journal, like in the news TV. And you were like, yeah, like for sure, let's go. And when we arrived there, there was like a lot of queer people. Like it was a samba queer space in Maceió, in the northeast of Brazil, and her parents invited us. Like I really wasn't expecting that, and they were like, woo, dancing with us. It was like super nice. And like, I felt super welcome, and for me, like her parents also really enjoyed that space, that environment, and I really wasn't expecting for that.
I mean, I've been thinking the entire time. I might not be able to top that, but I used to live in Munich for 4 years, which is, I mean, still Germany, right? But I would say, especially compared to Berlin, quite different. And there, I don't know. It's like in general, it's very kind of conservative, and you know, they also take a lot of pride being very different than Berlin. But still, I would still say it's like I was surprised of like how many LGBT parties there were. And then those tended to also then be kind of more of a mix, right? So they used to be like very, like also like straight inclusive. So you would have, you know, everyone kind of just dancing together. So that's actually quite nice. And I also hope that safe space also obviously means, you know, that you can be yourself, but that also doesn't have to be, you know, that it's like exclusive to straight people, right? So I mean, the idea at the end is, you know, we can all, you know, have a good time together, because at the end of the day, that's what a party is for, right? It's just, I think, then typically the more straight people the more queer people you have in a party, that kind of higher is a chance that it will somehow more be of a safe space. So ultimately, that's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I used to live in Munich. Freddie Mercury used to live in Munich, and Fassbinder was probably the most gay director of all time. I don't know if you know his work, but I wanted to follow up on what Gabi said, because I think it leads us nicely to the next section. Do you wanna? It's your section, so you wanna?
Is it my section?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Keep forgetting. So what we do is, the first is the icebreaker. We broke the ice with all the party questions and stories, and then we pick like the main anchor discussion point. And I think here, I mean, we're talking about the broader topic here, and we've picked three questions to kind of address this topic. And the first one, since we spoke about safe space, there's this, I mean, the safe space is created when you come out, I would believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I would really like to know your come out stories, and like when you guys came out to your friends and family, both the good and the bad, and I'm sure there was like the seriousness to it, and you can always add like a little bit of like the light humor attached to it, because there were some funny aspects to it as well, I'm sure.
I think one thing, first of all, I think safe space starts much, much, much earlier, right? Because I think safe space actually allows you to come out, because at the end of the day, if I don't feel like, I have a safe space where I am able to come out without any kind of bad repercussions, I will likely, try to like disclose it, to some degree. So I think it, starts like kind of like way, way, way earlier, kind of the groundwork. When we were talking about it beforehand, coming out, it's like, which coming out story do you want to know? There's millions, right? I've come out so many times, It's like probably to some people here who might have never seen me before, I might have come out today, I might not specifically go to every person and say, hello, I'm Kevin, I'm gay. Well, actually I did that today in the podcast, but I might not always do that, but sometimes people see, I promote something in the WhatsApp groups, and it's like, oh, something Out4Biz, Kevin. I have outed myself there. Obviously they're in a very kind of virtual and distant way, but still I do, right? And then of course, I think kind of, what you're referring to more, these like more personal stories, where you have like, towards my parents or my grandparents or my friends and so on. But ultimately it's a lot of different stories, and this coming out never ends. It's like a thing. And I mean, maybe in the very distant future, we will be in a society where at the end of the day, this is not necessary anymore. But I think I don't really think it's gonna come to that. So I think I will kind of have to come out until I pass.
And I feel like it's important, like the act of coming out. I feel like we're not there yet as a society to be able to like not come out. I feel it's important as a community that the people that feel comfortable coming out do, because it kind of shows the way of the others that are not there yet. In terms of my coming out stories, I have plenty. I have some with my friends. That was like one day I had to sit with them and have just this open heart conversation. Like, you guys know me for a long time, so probably this is not a surprise, but this is what's going on. At the time I had just broken up with a girlfriend, and I was very bad. So it was like, this is why I'm very bad right now. So now you know. And I had other stories that were as simple as like just at work and saying like, I have a date tomorrow and I think she's nice. And the person's like, oh, okay. And then that was it. Like, I don't need to say anything else. It depends on the audience and the moment, right?
Yeah, so for example, for me, it was much easier coming out at work than for my friends and for my family. I actually come out for work like way earlier because I had the privilege of working in very open companies such as Meta, TikTok, Pinterest. Like, all of those have the pride group really strong. So it was easy in a sense that even if on those companies I had that, I struggled a lot. I remember that one lunch, they would have like a kick-off pride meeting to like develop the strategy of the club, and I couldn't eat because I was so stressed that I would go to this meeting and I would need to say that if I am alive or not, and if I don't say anything, like I'm a very anxious person, take that into consideration. But then when I didn't go at the end of the meeting because I was afraid, and I talked to some people, and everyone like, Gabi, you should go. And with time, I started to do like micro things, and little by little, people would know. And as everyone was being so welcoming for me, I kind of felt like, oh, when I moved from Meta to TikTok, I said, I'm not going to be like that because I'm feeling that here has the same vibe. So every time I moved company, I felt more confident of being myself and being able to like find who would be my sponsors and who would be the persons that I knew that I could start this and would kind of help me navigate the company. While for my family, it was like much harder. Like, not everyone knows until today that I'm bi, and like right now my parents fully support me, but it was a long journey. Like when I told my mom, she told me like, what have I done wrong for this to happen? And is this like little microaggressions that make you like question yourself and see like, so there's something wrong with me or something like that. But at the end, I have like really nice stories of people like who like, yay, welcome to the club, which is like, and kind of this helps you build your community and like try to find your place in the world.
So, how do you navigate through those microaggressions? So, let's say for whoever's watching this video, like I said, the thousands of fans who watch it, and if there's someone who is going through the same journey that you went through, you mentioned, and what, I hate asking some tips, but like it's, what is it that you would want to, at least from your personal point of view, what would you tell them if someone?
Yeah, like my mother did like a lot of those of like, what have I done wrong? You don't look like, oh, you are so girly, like you like some things like that. And thank God I didn't receive a lot of those from the outside. But I think here is where like us, like the more we have confidence, the more we can kind of break these. Like as soon as the person says something, I can say, guy, I didn't like what you said, this is not nice. But I think that here is where the allyship is the most important part. Because if you are with your group of friends, for example, and someone says, oh, did you know that Fulano is gay? I didn't even think he doesn't look like gay or anything like that. You as a ally should be like, oh, why are you saying that? Like, what is a gay look? That such a thing doesn't exist. And trying to even use humor, like it doesn't need to break, because I think everyone is afraid that the friend will like, oh, we won't like the way you're saying, or this will break the mood of the conversation. But you can make this a light way, like to really, so your friends can start to engage and understand a bit. And for me, an area where I feel that this happens a lot is when we look like for transgender and non-binary person, because it's even new sometimes for us, like if you are non-binary, use they, them, like how sometimes people don't actually use that to talk with people. In transgender, people want to ask like some really weird questions to those people. And like we shouldn't do that. Like we need to understand their identity, and as you are going to be on environments where you might meet people like that, how you can like really address the person with their pronouns, and make sure if someone says something wrong or that you feel that that person won't feel comfortable, you as an ally will bring your opinion and try to help that person.
Yeah, just complementing, I feel like each letter within the community brings different sorts of prejudice from the outside. So for example, for the transgender community or non-binary, it's very common to forget which pronouns to use. For me, for example, as a lesbian, I used to get that a lot, like, oh, but have you ever tried being with a man? Or like, no, why would I?
Men failed you so much that you
yeah, or no, this is just a phase. Yeah, it will pass. This is just a phase. Stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like different members of the community suffer from different microaggressions, and we need to be aware, because even within our community, we can be the aggressors of someone else. Yes.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, I mean, what Gabi said as well is right. Like, you know, I'm at a point now, you know, I'm very comfortable with myself, and also, you know, I'm very also comfortable speaking up, you know, if someone says something that, but also, you know, like, people are in very different stages of their, you know, like, coming out journey or something, you know, and like someone might not have kind of the courage, you know, in that moment to stand up. So this is then precisely where kind of the bigger group, the majority, you know, which is the straight group, you know, where we kind of need the support, because sometimes, you know, you just don't have the strength yourself to do that, but then, you know, you go home and then you're, you know, like this can, leave like permanent dents in the friendship or something, and that, that shouldn't, because I think in most cases when people do these microaggressions, it's not because they're purposefully trying to hurt you, but they're like, often they're just not educated enough, they're not maybe thinking, what this can actually mean for you. But still, like obviously this like the intent might not be there, but you still said those words, you still, you still hurt the person. So I think ultimately, yeah, if like as an ally, this is truly when kind of your kind of time to shine, I would say, because then you can say something, you can show your support, and that's also what we need ultimately, because we are the minority, so to speak, so we need kind of the support of the majority as well in order for to ideally, I mean, get rid of these microaggressions altogether, but at least for like I can speak up because I also have the support of my friends to say something when someone says something inappropriate.
I mean, so like for me, I mean, this resonates a lot with me because so coming from India where it's a big taboo, and everyone that I know, at least most of my friends that I know who have came out after leaving India, and it just shows that like a country as a whole is not a safe space. And there was, like you said, like so much of it is not the responsibility, but about the ally themselves to create that safe space. And I felt like for my friends, we never did that, looking back, like 10 years, 15 years back. And I think that really resonates with me I mean, now things are obviously very different. So I just imagine like 15 years back, if we had done the same thing, it would have just made their life so much better. And like how you mentioned that you were questioning yourself in this microaggression, and my friends have told me the same thing, that it was because where there was no safe space created, there were all these questions that they had about themselves. Like my friend who's gay, and he would date women just to like get away from this microaggression, and kind of forcing himself to be something that he's not. And only after like leaving the country it happened. So I guess like countries and where you are make a big difference about. So where do you think, like, I mean, we've obviously come quite far, at least in this battle, but I was having the chat with Dani and we have miles, and I mean, it's a far journey to travel. If this is again philosophical, if you had to like if you were to think about like a society where that battle is won, what does that society look like?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, ultimately, I think, in a society where it's one, it's just, like you have this safe space, right? And I guess like in the ultimate society, it wouldn't be like even a matter of like, coming out, it's just when you meet someone, you don't have any kind of assumption of, what gender identity, what sexual orientation this person has, you just that, and then, when the person says, oh, I date women or I date men, it's like, okay, and it's just as kind of as normal as that. So I think that's probably something a lot will change, just in the mind, and just accept that it's like something normal, something that we I like, again, right? I mean, neither one of us chose to be gay, lesbian, bi, or something. It just happened. So I think that's ultimately also the way it should be treated. And I think that's like the ultimate goal would be to not try to have any like special distinctions or something, because they're just not necessary. Exactly.
I think also in terms of rights, like legal rights, I would say ultimately we want to have the same rights, right? Like the right to get married, the right to create and raise a family. We don't have that yet in the majority of the countries in the world. So yeah, I would say apart from like just being accepted as equal in the society, also have equal rights as well.
Yeah, I was going to add that like just 5 countries in the whole world have LGBT rights on their constitution. Like the others, they have this as like ample rights, but like on the constitution only 5, and I think like it's some random countries. Like really, I saw that. And
what are those countries?
I don't know, I think it's Norway,
Oh, yeah.
like one, and the other one is like it's like really small countries around the globe, but like is this like you need to have public policies that really aggregates the whole community, like trans, non-binary, like us if you want to have a kid, and even companies, like companies also you could do a lot of policies to help.
Yeah, just to put a bit in perspective, there are more countries that I could be arrested just for being myself than countries that I could get married. So, like, we still have a long way to get there.
And the last point, I think, I mean, you mentioned, your time in India. I think it's what is also incredibly important, and I think that would be the goal, right? To have role models, right? To, at the end of the day, like probably, what your friends were seeking was someone, who is like them, I mean, at the end of the day, that's exactly what you have. And I think that's one of the, for example, core values that we have for our Out4Biz Club, right? To have like role models, who are out to the community and where people, who are still, struggling, are not as far in their journey, can come to, and have like an open space where you can, discuss these things and, kind of get some tips, get some support from maybe someone who's also from your country, right? Or, who has gone through a similar journey. And that's ultimately what it is. And I think, it's fantastic that some people here, for example, at ESF for the first time are able to have queer like role models, see queer people kind of openly being queer. That's not a given, right? Depending on where you come from. So ultimately, bringing these role models kind of into like, kind of daily lives of people. If like someone tells me I've never met a gay person, it's like, it blows my mind because they will have met a gay person. It's just that maybe that gay person was not out to them, right? So I think that's ultimately, what it comes down to, like to have the legal framework, that's the same, but then also, to have like someone, where you can, get advice, get tips without the fear of like, getting rejected or marginalized.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because it just makes me think that the other day I was reading about Tim Cook and I hadn't realized that he was gay, which is quite a nice feeling that like such a important individual publicly is not defined by their sexuality. It's just kind of under the, whatever, you scan down because I was looking at maybe going to Duke on exchange and it was like, oh, and he's also gay. And it's like the CEO of the biggest company in the world. So that's kind of where we want to be, but obviously we aren't yet, as Dani has said, which you said that statistic before and it kind of blows your mind, even though it's very powerful. There was something else that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit more lighter. I wanted to talk about the dating scene in the community. And the good and the bad. Everything. Did it all.
How much time do we have? It's just
tell us everything. Tell us everything. Tell us all the misconceptions. Tell us everything that is good and everything that's bad within the community, outside the community, and just spill the tea.
I think it would be also a clear division, I would say, between, so for example, again, right, so it's like, it's all under like, the letters are kind of all lumped together, but I think, when it, for example, comes to dating scene, I, for example, have, like, apart from what I know from Dani, I have zero ideas about like lesbian dating, right? That's like a whole different universe, and, as for gay dating. So I think in terms of gay, I mean, I think we're all like familiar with like, the common apps like Grindr and so on. So I mean, there is definitely, I think, well, let me put it this way. I think given that, the societal norms that I think, like apply for like straight couples or straight people don't really apply to us because society's already like, you're already kind of out of the norm anyway. So I think that kind of gave rise to, the queer community kind of being able to form their own rules and do their own stuff. So for example, an app like Grindr would be like completely unimaginable for like the straight scene because it would be one woman who would just get targeted by millions of men. Whereas on Grindr, somehow it just evens out, I guess. So it's well, it's in a sense of like you don't have, I mean, I'm sure there are like some men that get like tons of messages and there are some that get little, but I would imagine, it's a little bit more like spaced out that, you get some, and then I hope everyone gets some. I mean, it's like that's a general PSA.
Messages, right?
Yeah, messages. I mean, messages, dick pics. I mean, there's whatever you want, right? I feel like so. I guess there is like definitely, at least in the gay dating scene, there is like a big element of casualness, so to speak. I think that kind of also translates into parties and all of these. So that's one part, but I think that's probably also like the most like dominant or resonating part if people think about like gay men is probably like all just promiscuous sluts that are just running around humping everything that moves. And so that for sure, this part exists. I'm 100% sure. But there's also like a lot of other parts, right? And more people are that seek, kind of a fully monogamous relationship, right? People that are, everything that you can like imagine, I think is there. I think just some things get maybe also amplified because obviously whatever is not the like heterosexual norm is obviously also more interesting to people, right? So obviously this part of like, oh my God, like gay guys go to parties and make out with each other is like much more like interesting than like, I don't know, just someone who is like on Tinder and is like, I'm looking for one man, not just five. So I think that's definitely one part, but it truly is like, it's as diverse as like any group, right? You can imagine. So I think that's just something to keep in mind, that like also like sometimes what is being portrayed, what you see is typically only like a small snippet of the whole picture.
So, I'll name a misconception unless you also have some misconceptions. I have some misconceptions about the gay dating life, the bisexual, and the
no
lesbian.
misconceptions.
I'm not the only one with misconceptions. I'm only the messenger of it. So the gay dating life I've heard is like very superficial. Like it's all about physical attractiveness and its looks, and compared to, let's say, the straight dating life. Is that a misconception? Is that true? Partly true?
I think that, again, there is like certainly a part, but if you think about like Tinder, Tinder is like straight or gay is like, literally, I've been on Tinder, like the bios are typically 5 words. It's like my height, and then I don't know, for gay guys, their weight, I guess, but that's kind of it, right? But like, that's all. So, at the end of the day, you're just going on looks, right? So I think there is like, sometimes I think these stereotypes, again, come from what's getting amplified, whereas if you look at, like, nowadays, there's more of maybe a generational gap than truly a gap between, like, queer or gay dating and straight dating, because ultimately also I think a lot of straight dating these days is very superficial and first based on looks. Yeah. I guess we've done it earlier. I think Grindr exists a lot longer than Tinder exists, but ultimately I think at this point we're somehow at the same level.
Yeah, I would say it's very different. There are some stereotypes, and I can confirm some of them, I guess. But yeah, for us, it's very, I would say, the opposite. Like, we don't have a Grindr kind of app. So like if we are on Tinder, usually the girls, and I'm also to blame, like they don't put any description, so it's very hard to make any conversation. Like you just know the pictures and that's it. So if you match with someone, it's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna wait for her to text me first. And then the other one is like, oh no, I'm gonna wait for her to text me first, and then nobody texts each other. Or if someone does, it's usually like, hi, and the other, hi, and then it ends. So like until it leads to something more casual, I would say it's a big effort. It rarely happens, at least that's my experience. And then if it happens, then yeah, the stereotype is, yeah, you get married in 2 weeks. And then,
What? Is that?
Have you never heard the term lesbian?
It's no.
You basically come to the date with like a truck full of your
with
clothes.
a truck, you drive the truck yourself, right? And then,
okay, I didn't know that.
and then you move, and then you adopt some cats, and then after 3 months, you're like, okay, yeah, no, that was too fast. I've done it in the past. But not always. But I would say, so those are the stereotypes. But I would say, in terms of approach, I would say it's very different. I feel like us women in general, we are much more insecure. So we are usually like, oh, I don't know, is she looking at me like in this way? I think she's just being friendly, or stuff like that. So those are things that I feel, and yeah, definitely it's a completely different vibe, I would say. Like you were there, you were in the lesbian party. It was like everyone was looking at each other and nobody was like, oh, I like your shirt. I'm like, oh yeah, she's just being friendly. Yeah, that's like it.
So, like, what one of my friends, lesbian friends, told me that one thing she doesn't like. I don't know if it's the same for you. She's like women that are bi-curious, and she's like, I don't want to be your experiment. That, you know, if you're just curious to see where you stand, I don't want to be your experiment. And then she hates that. I mean, obviously on a casual note, but is that something that you experience?
That's definitely something that happens, but my opinion is I don't mind. Like
You can experiment with me.
No, but like what I think is sometimes like it's fair if you want to explore your sexuality. I think
Freudian slip.
yeah, I think sexuality is not rigid. It can be fluid, and it's okay if someone wants to try it, and if they say like, yeah, I like it, or no, I don't like it. At some point, I had to try it, and I ended up liking it. So, I mean, yeah, I don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah, someone always was your like your experiment, and then people think that bisexuals, our chances are double, but actually it's not. Like, I have been in a relationship for a while, but I can say that, like, when I was dating, I had some waves of, like, sometimes, like, now I'm more in a man vibe. And, like, my dating app was just, like, more men. And, like, no, I'm more in a woman vibe. And, like, let's see, like, and it's, like, more fluid. And this is nice because sometimes, like, as women, sometimes it's a bit, like, more slowly. And sometimes you just want to hear some compliments. You go, like, oh, let me, like, go for guys and everything. And then it's easier. But at least I struggled a lot because you need, like, these changes there. I'm a bit shy when I'm making approaches, and for me it was always, like, a bit hard, like, navigating those to it. But I think what happens, and with my most bi friends I ask, is this, like, it's very fluid, and that's why I think there's a lot of misconceptions about bisexuals, that we don't know what we want, and at the end, like, if you are a girl, you probably, like, you're just in a phase, and if you are a guy, you are gay, but you don't want to, like, really assume that you are gay. But for me, that's the fun of being bi. You can just, like, fluid and go to the flow and see, and mostly you fall in love with the person. Like, you fall in love with, like, what that person represents to you. I'm being more, like, you fall in love with what that person represents to you, and then you just, like, you enjoy the moment and, like, the phase that you probably are. So you can, your chances are not double, but they increase a bit.
Did we have a question from the audience?
On the dating life.
I think my question was related to, like, bi-curious people, and it's just was kind of answered by Danielle, but it's very hard to then be bi-curious because nobody wants to be the experiment. And I think it's more than being the experiment, it's about nobody wants to face the heartbreak that comes after, potentially, I guess. Because, I mean, you will never know unless you cross that line.
And I think, mostly, I think, well, in general, there's, like, at least a good chunk of the gay community that loves bi-curious men. That's like that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, it's like, yeah, it's like, you know, so, you know, that, you know, that certainly exists. I think at the end of the day, it's more about, like, how are you getting approached, Is this like in a consensual way? Or is it more like, you're a woman, I'm bi-curious, I'm now just gonna kiss you. It's like, no, this is not how it works, right? So I think if you're doing it in like a very like respectful manner, and like, you mutually agree that you want to make out, do whatever, then it's totally fine, right? And I think that's at the end what it is, because I think what sometimes happens with like these bi-curious people, they assume that like, like Kevin's gay, so I can just get on that, So it's like, no, that's not really how it works, right? So I think, but if you are, like being respectful and so on, totally fine. And then there are just some preferences, right? Some people say, okay, I love like someone who's never kissed a guy before. Others say, God no, this is way too inexperienced. I don't want that, right? And I mean, you will have everything in between. But I think at the end of the day, it's just about the consent and not being kind of just assuming just because the other person has already their stuff figured out that you can just approach them in a disrespectful way.
In Brazil, we have a word called, in Portuguese, it's called bifestinha, which means party bi. Like it's someone, and we make jokes about it, but it's someone that usually goes to party. The person identifies themselves as straight, but goes to party and kiss like a lot, and then we say like that person is like party bi. It's nice. It's nice. No, it's okay. Like because sometimes some people, like some bi people, feel like no, there is no such a thing as party bis, or either you are a bi or you are not. And you can't be on this position of only going to parties and then kissing only on parties, because this somehow is minimizing my bisexuality. And I don't think, like at least me, I don't think this should be a problem. Like if you want to go to parties and like kiss everyone, just go for it.
It might be also because they're scared, right? Like maybe someone's
Yes.
scared of their own sexuality.
Exactly. Anyone has more questions?
The dating life. So is that okay then? Like, is that okay to be fluid when you choose to be? If they just want to be fluid on the party, that's fine. Like it's.
At least
they're
for
just
me,
for the
I
fun.
don't know.
Just for the fun.
At least for me, it's fine. But I think that maybe for some other people, it might not be. I don't know if
I don't know. I think I personally, we kind of say like, okay, like bi, lesbian, gay, and so on. It's like, you always attach these like very like strict labels to it, because we know, as a society, it's just easier, if we have that, and then, obviously people would love to know what's the split for Gabi between, men and women and so on. If you can attach a percentage to it, it would be great. Ultimately, I think, there is like a lot of things that are on the, where like people are on the spectrum. And for me personally, I also do not have a problem if this person, like chooses to kind of live out that part at parties. At the end of the day, I think it all boils down, is it like consensual, and are you doing it in a respectful way? And that's like also, at the end of the day, that's how you explore, right? Like maybe that person might do that at 5 parties and then might actually figure out, maybe that also, could also transcend into my daily life, and then, finds out. Ultimately, like finding out that you're queer is a long journey, and there's still obviously so much stigma to it, especially, like also the bi community gets a lot of shit from the rest of the LGBTs. So I think, then especially in those moments, you will maybe be even more careful, to say, do I actually want to identify as bi compared to just, like straight kissing also people at parties. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. But ultimately, yeah, explore, try things out, and like if you're, if the other person is cool with it, like there's no harm, right? So just, go for it and try, and then see what you like.
Okay, so we're celebrating Pride Week,
Yeah.
and a lot of the companies and the corporates, they celebrate Pride Month, and they change their logos, they change and for a month, and there are these memes about, oh, Nike is gay for a month, and like Apple is gay for this month. Is that, do you see that as just a marketing play? They're using it, like your community as a bandwagon to just like sell products? Or is that, or as a community, do you really align with what they're doing and you actually feel represented?
I feel like for some companies, they are like they really are allies, and they really implement diversity in their policies and internally. So I feel like when Pride Month comes and they change their logo to a rainbow, I feel like it's fine because it's aligned with what they've been doing before. And other companies, of course, they are, I mean, they are taking advantage and like using it as a marketing strategy and so on. But I feel like the more companies do that, the more we bring the topic of diversity, of the LGBTQ community. And I feel that even those that are doing just for marketing purposes are still relevant in a way that it brings awareness. Of course, there's how you do it. So some companies, they get it completely wrong, but they do suffer backlash from the community and etc. And other companies, I think they get it pretty right. So I would say I love Pride Month. I love when company change their logos, and yeah, if we can make a Pride year, then better.
No, I mean, fully agreed, right? I think, at the end of the day, anything helps, but obviously, like the more kind of serious attempts that are also go beyond Pride Month are more appreciated. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're a company that, donates once a year to, I don't know, exactly, to like the Trevor Project or, to other like queer initiatives, like, I mean, at the end of the day, still every euro, every cent counts, right? But obviously, I think now also, I think in the age of social media and so on, I think companies are also getting increasingly called out if their kind of action for the community is not really genuine and just kind of limited to that. I remember there was I think with Volkswagen, the German car manufacturer, they would change their logos in all the countries where it was kind of pleasing, right? So then, for example, in like, I don't know, I think Saudi Arabia or something, they obviously didn't change it, right? So then, you have like some stuff where, have like a company, it's like, okay, until it's easy, we're willing to change, we're willing to like go this way, but then, when you actually have the hard decisions where, I mean, as a company, you also have a lot of power, right? Like you secure like jobs, you have products and so on. So you taking also a stance in these countries where it is currently criminalized or whatever can actually, like slowly make an impact, in order to change legislature and change people's lives for the better. But nevertheless, of course, I mean, it is appreciated that Volkswagen in general, does these things, but yeah, I mean, we of course know also there's still, I mean, a long way to go, but I mean, I agree in general. It's like, it's great that we have this Pride Month. It's a great achievement, and also, again, something that like, we have to fight for to keep up, right? Because it's nothing that is like granted or given. It's in no constitution that says, we will have a Pride Month. And also, again, when the economy is not doing super well, those are obviously discretionary budgets that can be cut first. So I think it's also like something for us to fight for, that those things are still being kept up because it is ultimately like an investment in kind of the future of the company.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Oh, there's the question. Yeah, David?
Yeah. Just in general, I want to ask what you guys think I can do to be a better ally day to day. I'm really lucky to be from an incredibly progressive city where, New York, where being queer is very normalized. People don't look at you twice for the most part. And, I haven't been to a rally since gay marriage was legalized. So what do you guys think I can do to get back on that ally train in a very progressive place?
I think the first thing is, I mean, if you can, educate yourself, right? And that, I think, is like number one. So that means, like you have a bunch of queers here, that are out and proud, and, you can, talk to them about their experiences, what it means, maybe like what are maybe some microaggressions or something, that are thrown around, right? Because I think ultimately at the end of the day, the easiest way for you to create a safe space is by you, like being more knowledgeable about the things that are actually, could potentially hurt us when you say them or when you do them, right? I think that's number one. And then the second thing, so, get in touch, educate yourself, surround yourself with people and with knowledge. And then I think the second part is, whenever you see something that sounds kind of odd to you or something, just, I mean, call it out, right? Like we talked about it. You can do it in a humorous way. You can do it in a more serious way. You can, if you're unsure in the moment, you can also wait until kind of afterwards, right? To either approach your queer friend and say, hey, was that okay what the other person said? I wasn't sure. Or you can approach the other person and say, hey, do you think, your behavior in this instance was correct? I don't know, it seems a little bit like this. So I think those are then the moments. And I think, obviously, I also think there is, it's great that you're kind of thinking about from an ally perspective, what can I do more? I think also we as queers also have a responsibility to kind of also educate people in a more kind of bite-sized, friendly way, right? It's like a 10-hour PowerPoint presentation on, I don't know, history of queer rights or something is hardly going to get anyone. Yes, can't wait. So that's like also something, right? So I think there's also, like today, right? I feel like that's a, like a 1 hour thing where it's relatively kind of I hope easily digestible, and I hope you walk out with some more kind of knowledge on these things, and hopefully you will be able to next time you are in a group with a queer and and someone else makes a comment, that you will be able to kind of recognize that and then maybe speak up. But ultimately, I think it's like like being educated and then like showing your support. Those I think everything we can ask of you, because I mean we also have to be conscious. Like we're also not we recognize we're also not the only ones, right? Like the only groups on this planet that like need support, right? I mean, also I'm here with two incredible women, that also have other issues that they're facing, right? And depending on this, so I think if you're already able to do those things, right, then I think we will go already a very long way.
Yeah, Kevin did a very good and precise answer. Like, I can also say that you are a good ally. Like, everyone who is here, like, I want to highlight, like, we feel that all of you are really great allies. And when you say this last point of Kevin about education, there is, like, tons of, like, different areas for you to educate. And I think a nice way of doing that is through, like, series, movies, music, books, which are, like, some more fun things that you could do, and in a way, like, you are kind of like digesting or like getting your mind off, but at the same time doing something fun and learning from it. So if you want to learn, like we have like books and movies to indicate to you, so you can get like more sense. But yeah, that's it.
I have nothing to add. It was perfect.
Go to the next question.
Yeah, the next question.
I'm not sure how to formulate it. But,
That's hard.
yeah, we're hitting with a hard one at the end.
Okay, so there's obviously you spoke about them being women and they have their own battle. Do you think there's a conflict between the rights of the trans women and the feminism rights? And because there's this whole question of what even is a woman, and trans women have their own, So do you see them overlap, or they are fighting the same battle, or are they in conflict? I don't know if I made sense.
Yeah, I can start and then you add. This is a very hard question and a very tense situation when we compare, we look to the women world and the transgender world. I think there are some overlaps, but it also depends which kind of feminism you are looking, because there is different types of feminism. Like there is the radical one, like the more lighter one anyway, and like some of them they don't include trans women as part of their cause, and while others they do. And even when we look to trans women, they feel they want to be part of it, but they have other needs that when you look to like women, cis women, it doesn't account. So you have some overlap where I believe like if you can join forces, you can kind of overachieve. But trans women, they are so behind in so many aspects. Like some of them, they don't have access to education, to like work, to healthcare. Like imagine that when you are going to a hospital, like some people do not know how to like talk to you, or even depending on the country you are, you can't go to a hospital because you are probably illegal there. So I feel there is like a common sense, but their battles are very different in some sense. And why it would be amazing that cis women support trans women and don't like see them on the battle, because some, like, I don't know, J.K. Rowling, she does like really bad comments on Twitter about trans women. She has like a huge voice, and like she shouldn't be doing that stuff. Like, I'm a very big Harry Potter fan, and I'm very sad of it. So like, I think women should try to like support that and like use our voice as a leverage for their cause as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, fundamentally, I think the like feminist movement and the trans movement, they both come with the same principles, which is we all just want to exist equally in a society. So I think, yeah, there are some aspects that perhaps it diverge a little bit, but I personally believe that ultimately it should all converge to the same place, which is to have the same equality in terms of laws, in terms of access to medicine, to health, to healthcare, and etc. So yeah, some topics are only part of let's say cis women kind of discussion, but in the end, like, I feel like we get more power if we combine forces to drive change.
With the three of you here, I'd love to hear about, Kevin, like, what are you most proud of with what you've done with Out4Biz this year? And Dani and Gabi, like, what do you want to see for Out4Biz and the queer community at DSA next year?
Ooh, I think most proud, I think, when, we have so many people coming from countries where I know, they were not out before. And I think, enabling them to be kind of, to, be their true selves on and off campus here in Barcelona. I think that's the most, like, precious thing I have, truly, and like someone comes to me and is like, Kevin, I have one classmate who came and said, Kevin, please explain to me what are the benefits of being out? And I was like, that's a great question, like someone, we just always assume. And then, we had a very honest conversation, and now, this person is a very active Out4Biz member, and I love that. And I think ultimately, that's what the core of the club, right? Like, some people, who were not out before, and even if you've just kind of, gotten 1% more in touch with your queer side, I think we've done a tremendous job. And like seeing like also the community support each other when, I also like, there are like moments, when someone actually faces these microaggressions and so on. Those are truly like the ones, where I feel like the community is at its best. Of course, we're also, we have a great time, we have a lot of fun. I mean, those are all very important, but ultimately I think to me it's like, really allowing people or enabling people to be, more free, and having less like thoughts in their head of like, how do I have to speak, how do I have to say, what can I say, and I feel like at least we've made some progress over the last year, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, and for next year, that's a good question. We are still figuring it out. But I think some of those stuff that Kevin said we want to keep continue. Like, I already know that there are 4 Brazilians that are coming, so like at least like we feel that next year it might be more people. But I really want to keep building this safe space where we know that we can be our true selves and make sure that the whole ESE community kind of keep like accepting us for who we are. And I know we do like a lot of social events and probably keep doing that, like, and try to strengthen even more us as a group. Me personally, I would love to try to do like some more professional stuff. I don't know how feasible that is, because like we are like a small number of people. So if we're gonna do that, we need to like have quorum, like we need to really guarantee attendance, like for me, like for us to bring like someone. But I would love to do at least one of those. I think it would be amazing to have someone for the community here like work in a really nice place here, telling a bit their story. I think this would be amazing. But at least like for now, we really want to keep like our community strong and do not let ESA is a more heteronormative place, and do not let that make us feel like less or not feel that we can be ourselves here. And I think this is very important to guarantee that the new first years, they can be their true selves, wear their colors and everything, and everyone will accept them. And I think that's what we want for the Out4Biz.
Yeah, I second all of that. And I think just one thing to add, I would like to create also a stronger bond and relationship with the allies. My dream is to have next year this room full of people. I know we have the millions of people watching us, but also
we're getting to millions.
But also, here in person. So yeah, we are having Pride Day this week, but maybe next year we can have, I don't know, a Pride Week or even a Pride Month. I don't know. Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Being a religious institution, do you feel like they should or could be doing way more than they're doing? Let's say for you guys, for making more comfortable. I know it's a polemic question, but or do you feel? I know you feel. At least I know you feel comfortable. Let's say in ES and everything, but do you feel that they should be doing more?
I mean, the answer obviously is yes, right? I think that's I mean, probably if you ask in any company, they can do more, right? And I think it's like probably at ESA, I believe that they can do a lot more. So I think there's a lot more things that can be done. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's like, I mean, we have all signed up for this despite knowing that, you know, like this is a very religious institution, and we also know that like the Catholic Church as a whole is moving as well, but at a very slow pace. And I feel like, you know, we have like, there are definitely significant achievements, I would say, that we have over the past year. For example, for like this was like the first time that we were present at the club fair last year, right? That was like something that hasn't happened before. You know, the club I think has now existed for 5 years, and it's the first time that we've actually been like recognized by the university to like be present at the club fair. So I mean, you know, there are like, we are moving and we're pushing, and will it ever be enough? No, for sure not. But I think, but that's I think why, I mean, in other business schools, I mean, we know that like, you know, at LBS, at INSEAD, they have huge pride groups, right? I mean, they're promoting this. I also think ESA is definitely missing out on a lot of talent that is not coming because, you know, we're just not harnessing that like talent pool, which is sad because ultimately I think class discussions, you know, can be more diverse, can be better if you have, you know, more different, different perspectives. So that's like definitely something that ESA is lacking to some degree. But yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic that, you know, I think as we grow more and as there will also be more queers on campus, that we will kind of, you know, also be able to, you know, promote more change and you know, like change ESA also one step at a time. Within, obviously, again, the framework, you know, that we are in a very religious institution. I think that's just like something we have to work with. But I am very like grateful for all the, I mean, queers that are here and that are engaged, because ultimately, without their work and engagement, we wouldn't be where we are today, right? Like, I mean, it's definitely not. I would say like most of the changes are not coming because like the institution is like, oh, you know, we would like to offer this to you, but it's more like, you know, we have been fighting for this and we have been, you know, pushing for this, and then the institution finally gave in. So I think that's a fight we will just have to continue, but I'm very optimistic that we're going in the right direction.
I just love that in the serious conversation there's just in the background. Yeah, I mean, any follow-up questions? Oh.
Thank you so much.
I think we can wrap it up.
We can wrap it up.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you especially to Gabi, Dani, and Kevin for taking the time to speak to us. And thank you to the millions of people watching.
Who says I'm gay?
We bring in the studio this morning one of the gay rights activists, Mr. Should I call you Mr? Pepe Julian Onzima. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for
Good
having
morning.
me. Morning to you.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
So hopefully our podcast is better than that interview.